Is everyone in, John?
Yes.
All right, shall we start? Great.
Al, can you mute it?
I'm hearing some clatter, or is that? Okay, just sorry. So welcome everybody. Welcome to the Caroline Town Board's May 5th, 2020 agenda meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted along with meeting minutes on the town website. And to begin, we will reopen the public hearing on the proposed local law providing for a moratorium on action subject to site plan or subdivision review for a period of 180 days. The town board has proposed this local law as a measure of due diligence, given that the town's comprehensive plan has been under rigorous review and revision after multiple public meetings and a town-wide survey over the past few years, and is projected to be completed by late summer or fall. This will enable the town board to evaluate the existing development guidance tools of the town in light of the updated comprehensive plan to determine whether we wish to consider modified or additional land use regulations. The moratorium is a pause, not a prohibition, on development subject to site plan and subdivision review to ensure that we do our best to protect the vision and the future of Caroline. This public hearing is for the town board to receive comments and information. We will be listening tonight to inform our deliberations. We will not be responding tonight. This is a draft law, except we will be discussing during the body of the meeting. This is a draft law for which we are still considering information and recommendations from our attorney and the public. If there are modifications, those will be provided to the public with sufficient notice prior to bringing it to a vote. We will not be voting on this proposal at tonight's meeting. We plan to hold this public hearing open until our May 13th meeting and may vote on the moratorium law then if no substantive changes have been made. If such changes have been made, we will schedule a new public hearing for public review and comment prior to holding a vote. I want to clarify a couple aspects of town operations. And so the town's planning board is responsible for advising and supporting the town board on planning issues and initiatives. Comments regarding changes in town laws, changes to the town's comprehensive plan, or general thoughts on planning for the town of Caroline are best directed to the planning board. And as I've mentioned, the planning board is currently working on completing the revised comprehensive plan. The next meeting of the planning board will be held on Tuesday, May 26th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The town's review board reviews development applications subject to the town's subdivision and site plan review laws. Comments regarding specific projects under review are best directed to the review board. The review board's next meeting is will be Tuesday, May 19th from 7 to 8 p.m. So now, if you wish to address the board, please raise your blue Zoom hand. Click on participants on your control bar, and then you'll see the hand raise option at the bottom of your participants window. And Councilman Frazier will unmute and call on speakers in sequence. We ask that speakers limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes and maintain respectful discourse. You can also submit comments in writing to the town clerk@townofcaroline.org. And petitions and all comments received to date have been posted on the town website in the moratorium folder under the current topics tab. We will now open the public hearing part of the meeting for public comment. So anybody that wishes to speak about the moratorium law, the proposed moratorium law, please indicate by raising your blue hand.
So far, we have no hands.
No hands, okay. Okay, so I guess I'll put out one more call for anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting by raising your blue Zoom hand. Okay.
No takers.
You have somebody, Tim, John?
Negative.
Okay. Great. Having with nobody speaking at the public hearing, I will now adjourn the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting and open the meeting, the agenda meeting, with opportunity for privilege of the floor if anybody wishes to speak about any other matter of public concern to the town board. So I will now open for comments under privilege of the floor. If anybody wishes to speak, please raise your blue hand.
No hands, Mark.
Okay. Everybody's pretty quiet tonight. So I'll move on to the body of the meeting and call for additions or deletions to or from the agenda. And I will add to the agenda an executive session meeting with the council members.
The purpose of which, Mark, you need to state the generic purpose.
Sure, I can go ahead and state that. I'll also state it at the time that that I move into executive session, but I'll be offering executive session to discuss and deliberate upon confidential advice from counsel and potentially engage with counsel for additional advice upon legal matters upon which multiple direct and credible threats of proposed imminent litigation have been made. Okay. So I now open the meeting for discussion amongst board members about the moratorium, and I will I'll defer to one of you if you'd like to begin, if anybody would like to begin, or I'm happy to make my own thoughts.
I'll begin, I guess. I was
Okay.
very, very impressed by the number of citizens who came out to speak on behalf of the moratorium during the public hearing for this proposed law. Just as equally, I was more than impressed by the number of signatures delivered to us in a petition encouraging us to pass a moratorium. Over 650, which is astounding. And by my count, I don't have the exact figure here, but it was something like, it looked like there were at least 470 verifiable town residents. There was some spillover of Friends of Caroline. in the time that I've been on the town board, there have been some hot button issues, never an expression of will this concerted and broad across the town. So I'm very, very impressed by that. I'm very inclined to take that expression of interest most seriously. And next week, we'll continue to consider positively the moratorium.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else want to follow Tim?
I guess only, and maybe this is what you're intending to discuss in executive session, but I'm curious whether we can expect that there will be revisions to the law as drafted, or is it good to go?
I think that's probably an executive session discussion. That's what I would suggest. I don't.
I'm not asking what the specifics are. I'm just saying, but are there going to be? It's going to be public if we make changes. It's going to be public that we made changes. So I'm just trying to discern: should we expect that there will be changes?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. As you know, we've asked our attorney to review it and provide recommendations, and we have not received those at this point. So I can't say.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I guess I would like to offer my thoughts about the moratorium. I've also been very impressed with the number of people who have spoken out very clearly about the moratorium and the support given the circumstance right now that we have. The planning board is in the final stages of completing the comprehensive plan, which is a rigorously produced document that by virtue of the process that they have gone through will reflect the vision of the town, the vision of the people, of the residents in Caroline for the future of Caroline. And given the near completion, it's appropriate, and people have let us know that it's appropriate that we put a moratorium on developments that would be subject to the 2 land use regulation laws that we have, so that we can see what the vision is expressed in the comprehensive plan and potentially take action or evaluate whether we should take action regarding how we guide development in a way that reflects, that promotes the vision that people want to see in Caroline. So I've been very impressed, and I'm very supportive of the moratorium. I think as I said in my opening statement, it's not a prohibition, it's a pause. Let's wait, see what the plan says, and act appropriately for the welfare of Caroline. So those are my feelings and thoughts. Anyone else? Any other board members?
I wish to hear information in our executive session first.
Okay, sure.
I'm just kind of waiting on Mr. Crow's response.
Okay. So I will with that, unless anybody feels otherwise, I'll move on from the board discussion of the moratorium law.
Am I in or not?
Whoever
Yes.
you are in.
I might. Can I speak? Are we on that or not? My name is Ken Miller. And
So Ken,
are we still on?
so yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I guess we'll reopen privilege of the floor. So go ahead, Ken.
All right. Thank you very much. I guess I've read a lot of the things under this moratorium, people that have sent things in, and I understand that your moratorium is on something that I believe the Franklin people have read the present comprehensive plan, developed their program based on the review law and the subdivision law that is in place. And it seems like, and I don't know if they finished. Obviously, if they didn't have a review, they probably have to have some changes. But how can the board say, let's have a moratorium on this and change things when they've read the information and I believe are trying to comply with it? The other thing is I've seen with these petitions, one is just names and addresses. I don't personally take that as a petition. The ones that signed a petition that has a half no truth to the first part of it. I believe they had misinformation when people signed it. And so I would ask you not to put a moratorium on something that has been established and asked for at this time with the present that we have. In the future, I can understand, oh, it changed, and so the rules change. And I think that I'm certainly against the moratorium. Most people just spoke against small retail business coming into the area. They didn't speak about the moratorium and the facts of it. And I'd appreciate that you didn't vote yes on the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. So I will ask that Ken's comments be classified under the public hearing portion of the meeting. All right. So with that, I guess I will open the meeting for committee reports from the board members.
I'll just repeat what I guess I've said a number of times in the past 2 weeks, that the planning board is making serious progress towards penning the draft of the revised comprehensive plan. Is very likely to have done so at least the first draft by the end of the month, if not into early June. Some of this has been slowed up by the COVID. And it appears we'll be poised to present a revised comprehensive plan to the public sometime this summer. So that's well underway.
Great. And Tim, you just reminded me of something that I meant to put forward tonight. So Bill Podolka let me know that the county is furloughing personnel, which includes Lisa Heller, who has been helping with GIS mapping.
Yes.
And so Bill sent me information. He's requesting to employ a couple of people contractually to help with mapping duties. So I will offer that just for if there are no objections. I'd like the expenses were modest, and one of the people is Karen Edelstein, who is accomplished at this kind of work, and also Jim Houghton also. So I would like to get board approval to for their contractual services, so that the planning board can move ahead with the maps they need to complete the comprehensive plan.
I might just add that this news of this furlough came up really fast.
Yeah.
Only on Friday. The planning board had been awaiting some maps from the county. They were provided with some of what they requested, but much of it needs some detail revision, which is what I think these extra people would be called upon to do. It's, from what I understand, relatively low yield, but important work, important detailed work.
Mhm.
And the planning board hasn't spent funds, as I recall,
Right.
which were promised to them for planning purposes. So this really falls well within the purview of the board, and is a really modest request.
That's right. They haven't spent much of their contractual funds, so good point. So I will add that at the end of our meeting, for if there are no objections. I think it is, normally I would move that to the business meeting, but I think that the planning board's wanting to keep this moving right along and get this work going this week.
Do we have any kind of budget estimate of what it's going
Yes.
to cost?
And I'll have to look up the numbers. I'll get them for you right here momentarily. I apologize for, I completely, I got the email today and I
I certainly support the work getting done, but I'd just like to know
understand.
what it's going to cost us.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have some numbers out there. So hang on one moment and I'll just do it right now, if you can wait a second.
Sure.
Hey, Cal, when
Yes.
you're not speaking, would you mind muting your microphone, because we're picking up your background
Okay.
noises? Thanks.
Okay, so Here is the proposal. So Karen Edelstein, her municipal rate is $65 an hour. They estimate 4 to 5 hours of work. She hasn't seen the files yet, and one part of her work will take an uncertain amount of time. So this is a rough estimate, but it's very modest. So that's the scope of work, is to create maps of agriculture and inactive agriculture as designated in data sets from the Tompkins County Land Use and Land Cover Project in the town of Caroline for the years 1995, 2007, and 2015. 2, create an overlay map of the years 2007 and 2015 showing what land was in agricultural production in both years, which only in 2015 and which only in 2007. And same for inactive agricultural land. And 3, adjust tabulated values of land in agricultural production to compensate for a change in protocol between 2007 and 2015 to allow direct comparison of the tabulated values. So that's Karen's proposal. For Jim, his rate is $25 per hour, estimated 3 to 4 hours of work. So that's $100 at the most. The scope of work is make minor additions to several maps produced by Sharon Heller of the Tompkins County Planning and Sustainability, and 2, to create an overlay map showing new housing in Caroline and the housing focus areas designated in the existing comprehensive plan. So those are the two contractual services that I'd like to seek authorization for the planning board for.
And so it sounds like the scope of work for each is different. So are they each getting a separate project to work on? Is that the idea? Or?
Yes. I think the scope of work is different for each of them. They're doing different things. Is that what you're saying, Irene?
Yeah, yes, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, as far as, yeah, that's what I understand too from Bill's email.
I guess I'm wondering.
Can I just add that one is analytical and the other is design, so they're different scales of work.
Okay.
Which would reflect the difference in the rates as well.
Oh.
But is there a reason that we're going with 2 separate as opposed to just picking one and going with them?
I believe it is because Karen Edelstein has the professional background and ability to create and analytically overlay these agricultural maps. And
Got it. Okay.
Jim is going to be applying details, as I understand it, from the direction of the planning board. So it's more application.
Okay. It certainly
A lot of
sounds.
this could have been done probably by the county planning board, but they just have run out of time and are furloughed. So
Yeah.
it just stopped.
Yeah. All of a sudden.
Yeah. It sounds like we're looking at, a few $100s.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, I think it makes sense to get it done.
Great. So could I just offer that as a resolution right now to get it off our plates and use the language that I read from Bill's email for the body of the resolution?
It's okay with me.
I'll second.
Okay. Great. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Sounds like that was unanimous, Jesse. So great, thank you. And thanks for reminding me, Tim. So. All right. Any other committee reports?
Sure. Not a long one. There have been conversations in the Highway Department task force. I don't want to talk in great detail yet because some of this might be subject to negotiation, but
Mhm.
there are a couple of other interesting sites that have been identified. One in particular that Bobby and Brooke took a look at, and the committee is likely going to try and do a site visit of it as well. So we may be coming to next week's meeting with some information
Okay.
about something to take a look at. And we would probably, again, because it might be something where we would be negotiating, we might ask to do that in executive session.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
I too have a brief update. I've been in touch with Lee Hafley and there over broadband issues and the fact that there are several areas in the town, obviously where we don't have coverage, but in fact where it had been assumed that Charter was going to cover and they did not. And so Lee is going to be looking to see if he can find the maps from back then that we had of what areas we were expecting Charter to cover. It's actually, is particularly of interest to him as well because he could have bid on several of the areas and he was precluded from bidding with the understanding that Charter was going to be covering those areas. And so, if we can dig out those maps and show those maps versus what Charter has actually covered, we may have some way to push something forward with the state.
Okay. So Irene, that's we would have to get the state to agree to let Hafley do that?
Well, I don't know whether it would be Hafley or, just
or
hold
somebody.
Charter to their, hold Charter to the, map that they had originally pledged to cover or something. I don't know how it'll work out, but, hopefully it gives us some foot in the door to get something to work out.
Mm-hmm.
I might mention, Irene, that this is really good news because just within the last 2 weeks, I was approached by somebody wanting to know whether we'd been in touch with Spectrum about building out,
Oh yeah, I've been in touch with them.
Yeah.
I've been in touch with them.
No, I'm just saying that I was approached by another citizen, so this is very good news.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's good news. It's just, well, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, Tim. This has just been, a bear to deal with for years. And, I continue to try and chip away at it and find an angle in and we'll see what happens.
Irene, there has been noise now with the COVID pandemic. It's been really, that's highlighted the need for broadband as a universal utility. And so, and I know that Jason Leifer in Dryden and others have been advocating, like with Tom Reed at the, to the federal level, that, maybe you can get some energy behind getting some major funding to just, get this done. I don't know. Have you heard anything about that, or, I mean?
I'm certainly aware that it's a major issue.
Yeah.
I have not reached out to Reed's office. I could do that. The money so far that's come through has been only for areas that have no broadband at all through the Department of Agriculture. And so we've not been eligible for the funds that have been put forward so far that way. So.
Okay. Great. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay.
I would like to know if, I'd like to know if we're going to do anything about the fence by the spring here in the front yard of the town hall.
What's that, Cal?
I would like to know if we're going to do anything about the post and rail fence that's been down by the spring here in the front yard of the town hall. You know, could like just Whitmore fence or something come over and, you know, just put a little something up that just,
Or I had thought we could have Richard, our maintenance guy, work on that or something. But it's the reason I haven't been prioritizing that is that we, you know, we have been, we this year we'd like to pave that lot, and
so we want to hold that off.
that's
Do you
kind
want,
of what I was thinking.
do you want me to pick up the pieces and throw them in the back of the truck and get them out of there?
Sure, that'd be fine. And
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Okay.
And then that'll be easier for whoever's mowing. They won't have to worry about that.
Okay. Thank you. But you're right. Yeah.
Are we still on for the guy with streetlights from NIPA next week?
Yes, I think that meeting is on Friday, and I'll send you the. Did you get anything yet? I think I got the invitation today, so I'll clue you
Okay.
in on that. So yeah.
Mark, is that supposed to be a public meeting?
No, this is just this just started. NIPA has sort of reconnected with us, and they've set up biweekly working calls, and this next one's going to be like, well, there was one, so this is the second one. But I am kind of anxious to get clarification on where we're at, and you know, we just sort of we gave them the go ahead that we wanted to continue. What I learned in the last call is that what they were doing a lot of the site assessments remotely using, you know, which they can do. They have a lot of tools to do that. So, but I want to follow up with them on, you know, how much ground truthing there's going to be, and when there's going to be a public presentation on the project. And so, but yeah, I'll have more information soon, or we'll have more information soon. They seem to be you know, ramping up after the pause. Okay, anything
Mark,
else?
Mark, is it inappropriate to ask people who have a street light in their, if you will, in their front yard, what they think of it? I mean, what comes to mind is the Rose-Offs on Buffalo Road, you know, just the residents there. Do you like having it there, or would you like not having it there? Just to get their opinion on it. Is that
I think that's okay, Cal. I think, and I'll probably elaborate on this next week, but that was the other thing I was trying to get clarity on, because before my understanding was we're just dealing with what you have, making it
right?
better. But I think it sounds like, you know, if we see lights that we think we don't want to have, or I think we should, if we have a potential to gather information from the public on streetlight needs, either additions or deletions, that we should let them know. And I don't know what the capacity is. I know that Casey, when he talked to us, you know, that he said something to the effect that this is really dealing with what you have. But in the last meeting, she said, you know, we do want to know if you have, you know, if you have needs that you think are,
Yeah.
you know, unmet or overmet.
Yeah.
So,
I thought that there was going to be a professional evaluation of the
Exactly.
lights that we have to see whether we need them all.
Right.
You know, I'm not sure that getting resident opinions
Yeah.
is what I would look to versus somebody who has the expertise to drive around and say, this isn't needed.
Yeah.
This one you have to keep for safety reasons. You
Right.
know,
I agree
and
with that. Yeah.
I'm less inclined. I mean, you know, it's interesting to know what people think of their streetlights, but I'm much more inclined from you know, to hear from an expert who can tell whether we need them for
Right.
safety or whether they're optional.
Right. And
Irene, for me, it's a thing though. It's one thing if a person's opinion at it is at an intersection, but when it's the fourth light going up Buffalo Road, you know,
but I agree with Irene that that's something that they as professionals should be helping us evaluate. You know, it's kind of, I think it's a can of worms, a really
yeah,
large
it certainly
can
could
of
be to
worms if
start
we just,
asking questions.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'd like, you know, the professional could drive up Buffalo Road and say, you need this one because of this curve or this hump in the road, you need a light there. But these two are optional, or, you know, whatever it is. And so I rather than
There's
just,
the dairy farm up there where there might be a cow standing in the road, and if it was
yeah,
lit,
right.
well, whatever. So let's
Anyway.
not. I won't go off on my own and go start asking people what they think of the street
Yeah,
light.
I mean, I think if you hear things, get feedback, that's certainly fine to share, but I don't think we want to just make it a campaign. And I agree with Irene, because my understanding in the beginning was that was part of their job, to provide us professional design services. And there was going to be a public presentation about what they came up with that we would get to show the public. So.
Right, and then once we learn which ones are optional, then we can, you know, ask the residents, you know, the light near your house is optional. Do you want it or not want it, or, you know, whatever, and we can get their feelings then. Cal, you're on mute. I don't know if you wanted us to hear that.
Oh, wow. Did it self-mute?
Well, anyway,
Cal, you were muted out. I didn't hear anything you just
so
said.
that would be a more appropriate way to handle it, is see what the professionals say, and then if they say, well, this one's optional, then go ask people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would think that it's not just ask the person whose house it's in front of, but, you know, that, as Mark said, that the public could weigh in more broadly.
I'll definitely have more information, because this was, it was a new person on the call that I was dealing with, and I was hearing different information. So I definitely want to follow up. So.
Thanks.
Great.
I hope we don't lose the funding for the project.
Oh, we're not going to.
Good.
What? Yeah, no, I think we're good. They know, NYSERDA knows the situation. So I feel good about that. Okay. So I don't hear any more committee reports. And if there are none, then I'll ask if people had a chance to review the minutes of April 15th and April 28th that are posted on the website, and if they have any feedback to Jesse.
I'm satisfied with the recordings.
Yes, those are quite thorough, though. So I read them over when I received them, and I found nothing that I wanted to change, and I thought they were excellent. So
I agree. I think they're really good. They're it's not too much information. I think they're quite readable and they captured the gist, and I think you're doing a great job, Jesse.
Yeah. Very good encapsulations of under trying circumstances of capturing the what people were saying, I thought. So
Thank you.
And super quick.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
that's an understatement. All right, so hearing no further comments, the minutes of April 15th and April 28th are now approved. Thank you, Jesse. So now I will call for any agenda items that people have for our business meeting. One thing that I would like to put forward, and so at the last TCOG meeting, Terry Carroll and Lou Vogel presented about the New York NYSERDA's stretch code, and Brooke attended that and participated as well. So and so they did offer to come speak to town boards about the stretch code, which is a higher efficiency code requirement that towns can adopt. So I did reach out to Terry, and he said he's interested and was checking with Lou. I haven't gotten a confirmation from Lou yet, but if it works for both of them, I would like to put them on the agenda for next week's meeting. To tell us about the stretch code.
I have no
So that's a good
objection to that.
idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Great. Any other items for the business meeting?
Nope.
Mark, where are we? Have we been under the pause? Have we been able to make any progress thinking about the garden or land in front of the town hall?
I'm glad you brought that up. So are you talking about we got that survey for a community garden? Is that?
And or whatever we're going to do with it?
Yeah, so I am working on putting out an RFP, or I've been talking to Bobby, and so yeah, we need to get the bioretention feature in as well as the rest of the work. So I guess that maybe I will plan on bringing that to you guys as a board next week for to move that forward. So I will do that, because it's getting late. It's May. Year's almost half over, and so we need to move that forward. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Good. I mean, obviously, no one would have been able to do the work in the past 6 weeks anyway. So
Right.
we lost, but it'd be good to get that going.
But yeah, and if we get the RFP out, that's all stuff that can happen during this pause time. Then the other thing that I mentioned was, and I sent it out to everybody, and it just hasn't come up again, is there was I don't know if it's water under the bridge at this point, but it was I can't remember if it was through a cooperative extension or whatever, but there was volunteer help for establishing little community gardens in the area. And so if we were interested, and we had discussed this as one possibility, to have a little community garden out front. So I was wondering if it, would people be supportive of me at least submitting an application to see if it yielded anything, or if people would be interested.
Somebody planted daffodils by the rocks.
I know. I think it was Johnny Daffodil Seed. So
Strike that from the record.
so yeah.
I have no objection as long as it's mapped out who's gonna be maintaining it and taking care of it, and, you
Right.
know, I think all of that needs to be part of a
Right.
plan.
I see this as exploratory, so I agree. We need a plan for how it would be sustained. Great. Okay.
Well, and who would be using it and, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Great. Maybe we could grow fresh food for the food pantry, something like that. But anyway, I will circle back and get more information for next week on that, at the very least. So. All right. Anything else for next week? Okay. With I believe that's
other than the obvious moratorium stuff, right? You've got
right.
that. I
So the
presume.
moratorium will be on the agenda for discussion, and we'll have more information by then. And so yeah,
Well, I thought, is it for discussion or a vote? What are we?
it's for discussion and potentially a vote. So so if we decide if after receiving information from whatever, if upon our deliberations we decide to alter the current document in a significant way, then we would schedule a new public hearing, which needs to have 5 days notice. So we would probably schedule a special meeting for later this month to hold a public hearing on the revised draft. And then at that point, after that, then we would be able to vote if we were prepared to, if we were ready to.
Okay.
So that's the plan.
But if no changes, next week we vote.
That's right. That we would certainly, yes, that would be the plan. That was the, yeah, original plan. So Brooke has sent me a message that he wants to give a quick update on pause that people need to know. So I will ask John if he could unmute Brooke Greenhouse, our code officer.
Brooke is unmuted.
Can
Okay.
you hear me now?
I think
Can you hear
you're,
me okay?
I think so, a little soft.
Maybe the volume up just a bit, Brooke.
Okay, probably just
Perfect.
even louder.
That's great.
So just very briefly, there seems to be a lack of clarity among some folks throughout New York State, but right now we're just worried about Caroline, that basically under the pause order, the only types of work that probably can proceed within the town of Caroline are projects where there's either only one worker on the job site, landscaping, maintenance of existing work. You can't plant a new tree or anything other than vegetables and fruit trees. You can't do any new installations. And if there is a construction site, which I'm probably aware of anyway, that let's say they're framing a new house, they do have the ability to enclose it and prevent it from damage and secure the structure. But I've had a recent incident going on where what appears to be a group of contractors don't seem to be remotely aware of what's going on, received a handful of complaints. So as best as I can, I want to make everyone on this meeting aware that there's very little that is currently allowed that's construction or landscaping related. Since the town has a lot of properties and a lot of roads, everyone is welcome to advise me if they're aware of something that looks suspicious. And my approach is to visit the job site, have a chat with whatever's going on, inform them of the requirements and regulations, And so far, every time I've done that, we've had a pleasant educational conversation that led to no fines, no penalties, nothing, no drama. But I think we're starting to see people lose a little bit of patience, perhaps. And there are a couple things that are popping up that are definitely not allowed. And unless I was patrolling our roads constantly, I depend on members of the public to let me know if they see something of concern, and then I would respond accordingly. So that's pretty much my brief update. But what's been going on now sort of encouraged me to make sure everyone knew, what's allowable. And my approach is basically to educate people, stop them from doing the work. I'm not interested in the $10,000 fines. I'm not interested in building permit violations. We just want to get them compliant so everyone's safe and there's a fair playing field for all the folks who are just sitting idled and not doing work according to the regulation, according to the executive order.
Okay.
So that's it. I'm open to any questions, but thank you for listening.
Thanks, Brooke. Does anybody have questions for Brooke?
Thank you, Brooke, for taking this on so seriously. We know that you've been a leader in the county, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see a question in the chat, Mark, that maybe you want to answer. It's from Evie.
Oh, okay.
And Evie's asking how we let the community know that there might be a vote.
Okay. I don't know if she sent that before or after my last explanation, but
We didn't explain how you'd let them know, so I think
okay.
that,
So I would say, we should do that by the town announcement of the meeting will include that information. So we can put that out in town announcements.
which are typically posted on the website to the town listserv that
Right,
distributes to some close to 500 people signed up on the listserv.
Right.
It gets forwarded from that listserv. There's people who forward it to the other Brookendale listservs.
Right.
But, we did have the notebooks. I don't know if those are being maintained or if people
I
are
don't
accessing
know,
them.
actually.
Yeah, so that's probably not a venue right now. And whether, through the old mill, whether there's anything in there or could be anything in there.
Yeah, I'm just going to say at this point that it's kind of we have put forward the draft local law that we feel very good about, but we are expecting more some feedback. So I just and we may not have some of that feedback till shortly before the meeting. So at this point, I would say we hope to vote on it at the business meeting. So it's a possible vote, but if we feel the need, then we'll reschedule to enable a separate public hearing that would be required, and then a subsequent vote. So.
But regardless, next week we'll still have privilege of the floor, which we always have.
Yep.
Yeah. So Evie wrote back to say thanks, that she just wanted to know if there would be more than 5 days notice about a vote coming up on such a heated topic. So the legal requirement is 5 days. If we can have more than 5,
Yeah.
we would. But yeah. So we'll just we'll have to think about that as if we're making substantive changes, and given the whole situation with communication and organizing meetings, we might have to consider more than 5 days notice, but we'll see.
From what I've witnessed, I have great confidence that word will get out far and wide.
So yeah, and I mean it has been in play now for a while, so it's people are well aware of it. So.
Well, but if it's modified, then it's something new that's in play. It's not the
Right.
same old thing. So.
Yeah, and that is a good point. So. Yep.
All right. So we'll take that under consideration as we think about what. about what we're doing,
when we
Yeah,
can. Yeah,
whether we're modifying in,
Yeah.
you know, how substantive the changes are. And
yeah, we may want to create a little bit bigger window than 5 days to enable people to be able to digest it. And
so we now have another question from W, I don't know, W, asking whether we would post revised laws on the website. Yes, we post stuff to the website and also send it out on the listserv.
Yeah.
Whatever the revised language is, and we'll have a red line version so people can see the changes that have been made. We'll also have a clean version so that people who don't want to have to read through all the edits can just see what the final version is.
Yeah. So Will, the draft laws that we're looking at right now are posted on the website under current topics in the moratorium folder, or it's a single document, so not plural. Any other questions before we move on? Great. Well, so thank you everybody for attending tonight. We appreciate your engagement. I'm going to now offer a motion to move into executive session to discuss and deliberate upon confidential advice from counsel and potentially engage with counsel for additional advice upon legal matters upon which multiple direct and credible threats of proposed imminent litigation have been made.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by John. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Great. So the town board will now move into executive session.
Before we do that, Mark, I have to remove people from the call.
Right.
Yes.
I understand. So
Mark, I just want to remind you to stop recording too
okay.
when you
Yes.
go into
Right.
executive session.
Okay.
Good point, Jess. Thank you.
Yes, that's a very good reminder. Thank you for doing that. We discussed that earlier and I did forget.
Don't worry, we would have reminded you.